Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you today. We're celebrating the YWC holiday, Macho Man Randy Savage Day. Hope everybody is having a fun day. This is a holiday that's brought on by Jimny 868 over there. He's having a good day today. He was out this morning. I was checking his Twitter as he was driving around trying to find a way to pick up that Macho Man box set. He didn't want to leave with just the DVD or the Blu-ray. He wants to get the whole epic goodness, and best of luck. I haven't checked my Twitter since then. I'm on my lunch, but I just wanted to make a video. I know the love is out there because every time you go out and you buy a new DVD, you get that rush, you get that fire on the inside. But honestly, I've been saying this for a long time. I think WrestleMania 31, 2015, right there in the heart of California, Santa Clara, I want to see Macho Man Randy Savage go into the Hall of Fame. I know that basically he is a guy that has been deserving for a real long time. If you go back and you think of all the people that became wrestling fans during the 80s because of a time when Macho Man was a part of the WWF, him and the Mega Powers with Hulk Hogan running wild, the build-up of WrestleMania 4, winning the WWF Championship, beating Ted DiBiase. Basically, when Hulk Hogan jumped into the ring and hit everybody with the steel chair, wiping everybody out, making sure that Savage was going to come out on top, and then running with the whole Mega Powers jealousy angle of basically Hogan stealing Miss Elizabeth away, when you can debate it if Hogan was just looking for a new manager and was just trying to be in the thrill of it all, and if Savage was really thinking that Hogan was really going to steal her away. You can see that when WrestleMania 5 happens, basically Hogan wins the match, and it never really was said that he was going to take Miss Elizabeth, but from there Randy Savage went on and became the Macho King. And as the Macho King, he took on Sensational Sherry, sort of leaving Miss Elizabeth out in the dust. I don't think they ever really did a breakup angle, but every once in a while, Hogan would bring out Miss Elizabeth. That was sort of the her walking away from wrestling at the time. There's people who said that basically the reason why Miss Elizabeth disappeared from television and angles was basically that the Savages were trying to have a child. From there, Macho Man would go on to have great matches, and you can think of him and Warrior in the retirement match, him and Crush at WrestleMania 10. Macho Man, is a guy that always really delivered and had great matches. One of my favorite Macho Man angles was once he became a commentator for WWF Monday Night Raw. There's two matches that stick out in my mind that were just basically TV feuds that were blown off in the matter of 2 weeks. One was the feud against the Repo Man, where basically the Repo Man came out and he repossessed the Macho Man's hat, and he had to have a match to win his hat back. And another one was against Doink the Clown, where basically Macho Man won by going underneath the ring, and then on the opposite edge of the ring, the Macho Midget would appear that would take out Doink and Dink, and Macho Man would prevail in the match and get the 1, 2, 3. Just big things like this. But I think you got to tip your hat to it. I think a lot of fans back in the glory days of wrestling were big fans because of Hulk Hogan. But I think there's an equal amount of people that would watch Saturday night's main events and were caught up by the bright colors of the Macho Man Randy Savage and his wrestling style, whether if it was brawling, whether if it was sort of attacking, whether it was the high risk, high flyer sort of deal. He had the big Macho Man elbow, which is sort of just poetic every time you sort of see it. A match that you saw stolen by CM Punk, and taken on from there. But I don't think that there's been a lot of guys come up the top rope with the flying elbow, but I don't think you really think of anybody like the Macho Man Randy Savage. When I went into Best Buy today to pick up my DVD, basically when I went up to the in-store pickup line, and I said that I was there to pick up the Macho Man DVD, I was met by an ooh yeah, and her sort of throwing her fist. And then when I came into work and I was telling people that I couldn't wait to get off because I wanted to go home and watch the new Macho Man Randy Savage documentary, I was met by these fringe way back in the day wrestling fans, or people that I don't even know if they really know anything about it, saying snap into a Slim Jim. You think about the story that came out. I just watched the Eric Bischoff shoot interview from our video with people talking about wrestling stories that just really make you scratch your head. You think about Vince doing the youth movement in WWF, which moved Macho Man to the commentators table and was trying to move him away from wrestling and matches. Macho Man still thought he had something left in the tank, so he reached out to Eric Bischoff and he signed with WCW to start wrestling for them. Became their world champion. I think he was like a 3-time WCW champion. And he had great feuds, he had great matches. A few of the times, I think twice I can think of, Macho Man would main event a pay-per-view by winning the championship, show up on Monday Night Nitro, and having a one-day title reign and dropping the belt over to Hulk Hogan. And I don't know if that was just backstage politics or what that was, but I think when it comes down to it, Macho Man could have been a bit well-played hand. Vince was trying to force him out back in like 93, 94, and Macho Man would go on to wrestle all the way until, I believe, 2000. The last appearance I can remember him making on a big scale in wrestling was him winning the New Blood versus the Millionaires Club Battle Royal on an episode of Thunder, when basically he was out of WCW. His contract had expired, but as sort of a WCW way, they brought him in for a one-night appearance. I think they were thinking maybe they would be able to work out a deal, but he ended up winning the Battle Royal, only for us never to see him ever again. That it was a big splash to see him one more time. I think at the time we hadn't seen Macho Man in a long time, but what nobody knows about WCW, and a story that Eric Bischoff told, was basically that Slim Jim paid for Randy Savage's contract. It wasn't that straight up that they paid him. It was just that they set out that they were going to pay Randy Savage a set amount of money, and it just also happened to be how much Slim Jim paid in sponsorship to sponsor WCW and have their name on the rings and have their commercials shown on Nitro and on the pay-per-views. It just happened to be the same deal. It's just one of those funny wrestling stories. How that's one of the reasons why a lot of people think that there's bad blood between Vince McMahon and Randy Savage up until the day of his death. Was that Vince was hurting at the time, trying to keep his company alive, and at that time it was when the Slim Jim sponsorship got pulled because he left. I don't know. I think that when I looked at what they were doing for the Hall of Fame last year, I thought that maybe they brought Ultimate Warrior in as the main events at the Hall of Fame. I thought maybe you put him in the Hall of Fame one year and you bring him back the next year to be the guy who inducts Randy Savage this year. Of course, after WrestleMania weekend on that Tuesday when everybody was flying home, we all got the bad news about the Ultimate Warrior. From there, I think that the Ultimate Warrior would have been a great speech, but I don't think anybody really thinks of anybody as Randy Savage's biggest foe, other than Hulk Hogan, who happens to be in the good graces of WWE right now. And I think that everybody can see that whether if it's all story or speculation, I think that any bad blood that was between Savage and Hogan has been washed under the bridge. And I think that if Hulk Hogan gave a sort of a WrestleMania retirement speech for him to go into the Hall of Fame, I think everybody would believe it. And I think it would be great, because everybody knows that Savage and Hogan were great friends. Everybody knows that Savage sort of blames Hogan for the breakup of him and Liz, how they weren't married anymore. But I don't know what goes into that. There's two sides to every story. Hulk tells it one way. If you go back and you find old interviews from Randy Savage, he tells it another way. As far as I know, Savage doesn't have a real produced shoot interview. You just find radio interviews or fan cam sort of question and answer deals with him to find things out. He didn't, when he left wrestling, he really did leave wrestling, and he was out of the spotlight. Yeah, I can remember him showing up at, I believe, a Tampa Bay Devil Rays minor league game down there in Florida, and that was like big news that Savage was on television, and he had a huge white beard looking like Santa Claus, and he was one of those guys who really pulled out of wrestling and got away. Of course, everybody knows he found his real true love in life, I guess you can say, with his high school sweetheart. They found each other, they got married, and they just were living quietly in Florida. But I think Randy Savage would be a great addition to the WWE Hall of Fame. As big of a joke as some people think it is, I think it would be a great moment, whether if he is the headliner or if he's just sort of a guy that gets filled in the middle, because it's hard to leave the Hall of Fame with a good feeling when you put somebody in who's passed on. It seems like every year you have one sort of person in there, and they have another main eventer along the way. I know you can think of deserving people for the Hall of Fame this year would be Undertaker, if you wanted to put him in already, Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, The Rock. There are a few guys that could headline this deal, but Savage is probably one of the most deserving guys, seeing how much he did for the WWF and got them to, how popular they were during the Saturday night's main event boom of the 80s. So we'll have to see what happens, but my vote this year is for Randy Savage.